All right, so the city of San Jose, which has been notoriously anti-gun for years, their district attorney in particular is extremely anti-gun, and that's up just on the very south tip of the San Francisco Bay. If you're not familiar with where San Jose is, they decided they actually have a whole bunch of new anti-gun laws.
Sound like you know the way to San Jose.
I know. Nice.
You knew that was coming.
Yeah, that was awesome. So see, that's the joke we should have.
Joke.
Yeah, right. That's the one we should have set up. So anyway, San Jose is they actually are coming up with a bunch of really horrible gun laws. And San Jose is a city. It's not it's not a county. It's not a state. It is certainly not the federal government. And that's something that San Diego County Gun Owners we saw this coming years ago when we started. Hey, these gun laws are going to start happening on the municipal level, and that's exactly what's going on here. This is a Brady organization wish list, and so they did a couple things. One is they need video cameras at gun shops. So if you go in to buy a gun, you're gonna be on camera. Smile, you're on candid camera. And there's a bunch of other proposals, the worst of which, though, is they're going to tax you simply for being a gun owner. So just the act of owning a firearm, they're going to send you a bill and tax you, which is...
Whether you buy anything or not.
Well, yeah. No, just owning. Just owning
right.
a firearm,
Right.
They're going to tax you. If you don't pay that tax, or if you're caught with a firearm that hasn't been taxed successfully, they confiscate it.
Is this not how the original Independence Day started?
That's why I wanted to talk about it. 245 years later, look right where we are. And the worst part, there's so much bad about this. No matter who you are, whether you're a private rights person, whether you're a gun person, whether you're a tax person, or whether you're just an American. There's so much that's bad about this thing, and they keep telling us, oh no, we're the anti-gun groups, we just want reasonable, common sense gun laws. That's all. We're not trying to take your guns. We're not trying to punish law-abiding citizens. Okay, well, MS-13 isn't going to pay their taxes on their
I'm
illegal,
afraid not.
You know what I mean? They're not taxing gangs. The Bloods and the Crips aren't going to be stroking checks and making sure that they pay their gun tax. They're absolutely punishing law-abiding gun owners, and they're absolutely trying to take guns away. It's not even kinda anymore. This is totally legit, and it's really truly. I was on Carl DeMaio's show on Friday, and made the assertion. I wanted to see what you guys thought about this. This is absolutely no different. It is the moral equivalent of, and functionally the same thing as a poll tax. And if you're not familiar with what a poll tax is or was, in the South, in the southern states, they would actually tax people before they could vote. And it would, they disproportionately enforce this on African Americans. And the idea was to keep African Americans from voting.
Right.
So that they couldn't vote against the racist Jim Crow laws and that sort of thing. There's no difference here. And you can tell by the reason that they gave. The reason that they're giving is that, hey, the city of San Jose spends millions of dollars on gun violence. Therefore, for you to own a gun, you have to pay us back for this
because it's your fault.
Because it's your fault.
Yeah, and what it does is disproportionately hurt the people that they're always saying they're trying to help.
Yep.
The people that don't have a lot of money, to where this is a big deal now, because if you have money, okay, another tax. If you're really, if you don't have a lot of money, saying every dollar counts, now this is a useless tax that once again you have to pay, or it keeps you from owning firearms, or it criminalizes your behavior again.
But this goes beyond firearms too, because for anyone even who supports this, if they allow the government to do this to gun owners, what will they come after next? So It's setting a very dangerous precedent for just our rights as Americans in general.
You do know they're going to start charging you by the mile what you drive. Have you heard that one?
Yeah.
No, I hadn't heard that.
Oh, no. That's
California.
what Newsom's working on. In other words, because if he pushes everybody to electric cars, the only way to get you out of your gas car is charge you like $1 a mile, which makes you not want to drive to San Francisco.
Which also forces you into public transportation, which they can regulate.
Correct.
Now you need papers.
Correct.
Now, okay,
Mm-hmm.
prove to me you're vaccinated.
That's right.
Prove to me this
Or push
before
you
go.
into an electric car, and oh, you're right, we don't have a grid, so we really can't charge your electric car, but you need an electric car.
Well, didn't they just say that the other day? You can't. If you had an electric car, you weren't supposed to charge it during the day or
Facebook,
something.
Yeah, you gotta
and
flex your
Facebook
power.
whacked me.
Oh, what? What was that?
Facebook
What happened?
whacked me. Said false information.
Oh, is that what that is?
Not true.
Because I heard that.
I don't have
rumor,
an app
too.
for that.
I don't have an app for that either, but if you...
You know,
But it sounds. I mean, it sounds reasonable
I
for
was
out here.
I was very proud.
and you know the thing is the way to
Fact checkers got you.
What I really so I wanted to bring this up because it's the ultimate irony that we're talking about this on the 4th of July, because it's exactly what happened. And we're going to talk about independence. We're going to talk about the Declaration of Independence in the next segment a little bit, and talk a little bit about the history. And I'm actually going to read a section of the Declaration of Independence.
Is that
But
your mic drop?
we're going to get there. So, but the thing is, the way to talk about this isn't to call people names and typical libtard or whatever, darn liberals or they're blah 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 blah. You have to explain to people that, hey, this is a civil right. Your right to keep and bear arms is a civil right. San Diego County Gun Owners is a civil rights organization. We are fighting for a civil right. And it's your right to self-defense. It's your right to defend yourself, to protect yourself. When we were talking about the APAGOA, which you guys are starting, you guys are
Well,
a
he
civil
could say that because Davis wasn't
Yeah,
here.
because Patrick.
Or
left.
Patrick
Patrick's
wasn't
gone.
You guys are a civil rights organization. You're not fighting for a sport. You're not fighting for a hobby. The entire foundation of what you guys are talking about is, hey, we're being attacked. We're being attacked for the simple fact that we're of Asian descent. And in order to defend ourselves, what do you guys need to defend yourself? What's the most effective tool in human history when it comes to self-defense?
Firearms.
Firearms.
So here's another thing too about that San Jose thing. Isn't it true that they want to, or they're going to make you have insurance in order to own the firearm or something like that?
I think they were talking about that. But I mean, this tax is kind of the same thing. And if you look at, they assigned some enormously huge number, that like $65 million a year is spent on gun violence. And if you looked and break that down, there were some hard costs, like, okay, if some gang member gets shot and ends up in an ER and they have to treat him, well, the city has to pay for that, right? That's a hard cost. But then there was like emotional, damage and stuff like that, where they just inflated this ridiculous number. And so my fear, though, is that everybody's going to hear this and go, oh, no, gee, that's horrible. And they're going to throw their hands up in the air and wait for someone to sue. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure someone's going to sue. Someone's going to, some organization is going to sue. I'm sure that's going to happen. But you can't sit around and wait for that. It's coming.
Because that takes years. You'll be in litigation.
Well,
for
again,
years.
like you always say, it's far better to get the right people elected at the local city council level, so you don't have to deal with this kind of stuff in the first place.
Yeah, well, and we have 18 cities in the county of San Diego. There's 26 cities in the county of Orange, and this is coming. I am convinced that the city of San Diego is going to pull this same ridiculous crap. Del Mar might try this. Solana Beach might. But what's not? What city's not going to try this? Santee.
Yep.
Oceanside. Escondido. El Cajon.
Alpine.
Well, they don't have a city council, but
Yeah, we do. Me.
Mayor Dave Stahl.
Darn right.
But why? Why isn't Santee going to pull this? Because they have the right people elected.
In office. That's right.
In San Diego, there are 9 city council members. 8 of them, at least, they're going to vote for this thing if it gets introduced. Irvine potentially could pass something like this. Some of the cities up in Orange County. But again, this is your civil right that we're talking about. This isn't a hobby. This isn't an interest. This isn't this is your civil right, your ability to defend yourself, to protect yourself, and they are taxing it.
That's why it is so important for people to realize that laws like this will not change if we don't elect the right people, and that's why San Diego County Gun Owners is doing it for you. So become a member and get involved.
All right, folks. We are going to talk about the Fourth. Well, we live in a state where your self-defense rights are under attack. So let us be your voice to help defend and restore the Second Amendment. You need to help us spread the word about the fight. There's 2 easy things you can do. 1, like and subscribe to the show on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Instagram, the podcast, or wherever you like to listen to our show. Share the show with as many friends as you can. And thanks for tuning in. And remember, together, we will win.
All right, so normally we do our Stump My Nephew, but we already stumped him today at the 4 o'clock hour. He's up flying around looking at fireworks. And we normally do the mic drop.
You wanted me to do that? Oh.
So we normally do the mic drop.
Mic drop.
And I thought we'd do something a little bit different. The mic drop really is a couple minutes where we criticize a local official for being
Constructively criticize.
constructively criticize a local official for something that they're doing wrong. Normally it's gun related,
For
but
their
not always.
shortcomings.
For their extreme shortcomings. And it being, Beat the British Day, 4th of July, Independence, what I thought I'd do is I thought I'd read, not the entire thing because we don't have as much time as it would take, but I thought we'd read a little bit from what I consider the ultimate mic drop, which was the Declaration of Independence, which is, that's what was drafted and then signed and then distributed on this day 245 years ago. And why it was the ultimate mic drop is that this was the catalyst that kicked it all off, that formed the nation.
Okay, a little patriotic music in the background, please. Can we get a little something going there?
Yeah, let's do that. I'm a little patriotic music. Nice and low. Okay, so here we go. And I'll bet you, how many people, when's the last time you guys read the Declaration of Independence?
This morning.
Before today.
I would have been in high school for me.
It's
actually.
been a long time. All right, without further ado.
So read slow.
The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient suffrage of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over the states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. And he goes on to, you can cut the music, he goes on to actually list specific things. And we were just talking, there was actually a whole section on slavery, which was interesting because this was written by Thomas Jefferson, who was a slave owner. But that was actually voted out by the colonies. They didn't include that because there were a lot of colonies that wanted to continue to own slaves. And that's an unfortunate thing that was eventually corrected through a whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But the reality of this thing is these were normal people who had a whole lot to lose. Everything, in fact. The ultimate punishment for their activities was death. And one thing that bothers me is that I hear people emphasize the part of this whole thing that was the violence. That hey, they took up arms and fought the British and that's the focus. And I think a lot of that is kind of romanticized and maybe even some dark humor. But the reality is this: these were activists. These were people that wrote letters and took action and formed a government and showed up. They didn't just take arms and say, hey, we're gonna get to fighting. And the Constitution that was written and ratified and that we live under now made sure that the fighting part never had to happen again, that there was the ability to vote, make decisions, take it to court, so that the violence never had to happen again. And one thing that annoys me about our community sometimes, our gun community, is this the last few years, this boogaloo attitude. And if you're not familiar with what boogaloo means, it's kind of this tongue-in-cheek term for armed revolution, is really, right? Is that an accurate description?
Yeah, it is.
That's probably the most un-American thing you could possibly talk about.
Right.
And the reason is because there were people who did actually fight. And we just went through a year and a half. If you weren't going to pick up arms and fight back against the tyrannical government, in the last year and a half of everything that happened, when the government told you had to stay at home and can't travel without a vaccine, all these things that happened. Now, thank God nobody did, because frankly, you're a lunatic if you do. But the reality is, you got to stop talking about it. You got to end it. Yeah, you have to realize that what they were doing with the with this document was putting forth the ability for people to participate in their own future and govern themselves. But you have to show up. You have to show up. You have to be involved. And we were talking a little bit about that with Joe's with Joe's segment. And when I hear people say, "Well, gee, if they ever show up at my house, they're not going to take my guns." Okay, well, you've never even shown up at a city council meeting. You know what I mean? That's your plan, is to wait for them to come confiscate your gun and possibly fight back with violence? There's probably 150 steps before that. And number one is getting to know who your actual representatives are, because that's the most American thing you can do. When you have a representative form of government, that was put together from a document that most people I know, especially gun owners, consider sacred, the Constitution. And if you're not following that plan, how much are you really honoring the people that really, truly did pull triggers so that you could have a free country of the self-governed?
Amen, sister. Amen.
So I don't know. What are my assertion that the Declaration of Independence is the ultimate activist document? What are your thoughts?
No, I think I agree with you there. They did not take going to war lightly, and I think that was an absolute last resort where they ended up. And remember what happened, at Concord. They didn't actually fire a shot until that tyrannical government came and tried to seize, their guns, their ammunition. Because back in the day, the towns stored all that stuff commonly because gunpowder was a lot less stable. So they had buildings where they stored that stuff. And that was really the last resort. I mean, the last thing that triggered it. And, hopefully we should never get to that point again in this country. But like you're saying, if people don't get involved, and like I was saying in the article today, if you don't get involved and take a part in this, you can't just sit back because the people that want to change some things, that want to, in my view, destroy what we have here, they're not going to stop. And unless Americans stand up and stop them politically, it could very well lead to that last resort kind of thing.
But if you don't even know who your mayor is,
exactly, yeah, exactly.
When I talk to people and they say, "Well, gee, gosh, I'm getting all steamed up," and what are we going to do? What did you say? What did your representative say when you brought this up to him? I don't know who you're even talking about, Mike.
Yeah, because I have the same thing. Because you ask, "Oh, what have you done?" Nothing.
And so
okay.
You guys have all heard the phrase, the price of freedom is ever vigilance, right?
Oh, yeah.
And what does that really mean? What does it mean to be vigilant? And to be vigilant, it means
Involved.
you're really involved. You have to run your own life.
It means knowing who your representative is. That's what it means. And
it means not sitting around watching Fox News.
No.
And, repeating platitudes. It means, hey, I got to go get involved. It means I got to stand up. I got to put time aside. In order for me to be free, I have to actually literally run my own life. But
and that's and that's what I advise people to do. Get involved at the level you're comfortable at in areas that you're comfortable with. Everybody's got a unique thing they can get involved in.
All right, Amy's coming in hot.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, I'm just, I'm agreeing with all these points. And activism, especially where it comes to the Second Amendment, really begins with just a phone call or an email to your local legislator.
That's it.
at the very least.
And it's not hard to find out who your representative is.
Well,
Because I think San Diego County Gun Owners.
I was going to
has a
say,
list.
yeah, we're a great resource for all of that. But I just thought, you know what? There is absolutely no mic drop that I could have written that would have outdone, Thomas Jefferson's mic drop. So I wanted to read a portion of that. I invite you all to do the same. And of course, get involved in San Diego County Gun Owners. Thanks for watching this clip from Gun Owners Radio. You can watch us live every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, right here on our YouTube channel. Or if you're in the San Diego area, you can listen to us on 1170 a.m. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform for free. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can help restore and protect the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.